I started looking for meditation teachers. And I would go to different groups that were teaching meditation, and they would say, okay, now it's time to meditate. And I would say, okay, I'm ready. Tell me how. And he said, well, you just sit and meditate. And there was no instruction. I happened to run across someone that was teaching a Buddhist form of meditation, and they actually had instruction. And that's why I started paying attention to the Buddhist teaching. But I was nothing but a dumb American. I believed whatever they said. They didn't tell me to do it this way, I'll do it this way. And they say, well, you're supposed to get enlightened if you do this for a little while. So I was ready to get enlightened. And 20 years later, I still wasn't enlightened. I had gone through a very intensive meditation. I've done, I never stopped to count, but it's between 12 and 15 3-month retreats, where I did nothing but meditation for 3 months at a time. I did an 8-month retreat in Burma. I wanted to stay longer, but that was when they had their social unrest in Burma. And they kicked all the foreigners out of the country, so I couldn't continue. So I went back after, well, it was 2 years. That's how long it took me to get a visa to go back into the country. And I did a 2-year silent retreat. The only person I talked to in 2 years was the teacher. I did this in 1990. When I was a layman, I went to college and I was a history major. So I was really interested in history. And when I went to Burma in 1990, they were just starting to have some social things happening in the world that was really interesting for a history major. But when I went to Burma, I didn't read any newspapers, I didn't hear any radio, I didn't talk to anybody except about meditation. I was sitting in meditation between 16 and 22 hours a day. And after 2 years, I went through all of the things that they said you were supposed to go through in order to be enlightened. And I was very disappointed by that experience because I didn't feel like I was. But I experienced everything that they said I was supposed to experience. When I came back I got out of Burma, I got into Thailand, and a friend walked up to me and started talking about the Soviet Union collapsing. I didn't know about it, and I'm a history major. And I started going, you know, this is the most important thing in this century to happen. Russia is no more the way it was. The Soviet Union is gone, and I missed it. And then I started thinking, okay, what did I miss? Has it made any change in my life from one thing to another? And no, it didn't make any changes at all. It's just talk. It didn't change anybody around me that I knew. So there was the realization that newspapers, although everybody thinks it's real important to keep up with current affairs, they don't affect you one way or the other. Not knowing whether Russia fell or not didn't affect my life or any of my friends. So what good is that? What kind of information is that? I went back to Malaysia mostly because they speak English in Malaysia. And because I'd been in Burma for so long and people found out how well I'd done in Burma according to their system, they asked me to start teaching meditation. But I wasn't satisfied with the kind of meditation that I'd been practicing. So instead of practicing mindfulness of breathing meditation that they were teaching, I started teaching loving kindness meditation. And the way that I started teaching the loving kindness meditation, it was a very practical exercise in how to be happy and how to carry that happiness with you in your life. This was something very revolutionary in Asia at the time, because they were taught to practice loving kindness meditation as being a form of extreme one-pointedness of mind. They call that one-pointedness. Don't crush it.
He wasn't here, I'm sorry. We talked about that. It's just a rule for the monks.
The extreme one-pointedness of mind is called absorption concentration. But the absorption concentration, when you practice it, your mind becomes very focused on one thing. You go very deep into that. But you haven't got awareness of things that are around you. You don't know what's happening around you while you're sitting in meditation. You get real peaceful, you get real calm while you're deeply concentrated. But when you come out of the meditation, you have all life's problems. And you don't really see how the meditation can be incorporated into the practice. So when I started realizing that they were practicing loving kindness meditation this way, I started teaching that you need to start your meditation by smiling. And there was a lot of resistance to that. Smiling while you're meditating? What is that? But when you start smiling, and you carry your smile with you all day, your mind becomes very alert. Your mind becomes really sensitive to when you have a hindrance arise and it pulls your attention down. And then you get into emotional snits of anger, sadness, depression, sorrow, whatever it happened to be, whatever the catch of the day was. And the more you learn how to smile with your daily activities, the more alert you become to those kind of mental states that pull you down and cause you to suffer. So this was kind of another revolutionary kind of thought and a way of approaching life. You mean it's okay to be happy? You mean that's the way we're supposed to be? The more you learn how to smile with what you're doing in the present moment, the more alert your mind becomes. The more you can see when your mind starts to get heavy, and you can let go of that heaviness. Now, while I was teaching this way, what I started doing was somebody gave me a copy of some of the discourses of the Buddha. And it was a fairly new translation at the time, and I started studying what the Buddha was talking about when it came to practicing meditation. And I found out that what I had been practicing in Burma for more than 20 years, I've been practicing the Burmese style of meditation. I found out that they had taken one of the steps that it says in meditation that you need to practice and ignored it. Now, this step has to do with relaxing the tension and tightness in your mind and in your body. Now, you're all medical students, so you know that you got two lobes to your brain, and that there's a membrane that goes around each one of these lobes. And where the lobes meet, there's the membrane kind of gets stuck. It sticks to each other there. Every time a thought arises in your mind, this membrane around your brain contracts a little bit. And that contraction is the start of suffering, of pain, of sorrow, of emotional upset. By following the actual teaching of the Buddha, when that contracts a little bit, you need to recognize that. Everybody here has a tight mind. Right now, there's contraction here, around your brain. You need to be able to recognize that and relax that tightness. Now, I get a lot of, how are you supposed to relax it? Well, make a fist and squeeze it as tight as you can. And then I say, now let go of that tightness. How did you do that? You did that by recognizing that there was tightness in your hand and the muscles, and you relaxed those muscles. When you start doing that, when you start meditating and every time your mind gets distracted, you notice that tension and tightness and you relax, there's some real amazing things that happen. First off, as soon as you relax, you notice that there's no tension or tightness in your head or in your mind. There's no thoughts in your mind at that time. There's only this pure mind. This mind that's very alert. This mind that's very bright and clear. Now, when you're practicing the meditation, you need to smile. So this is the time when you let go of that tension and tightness and smile. What does the smile do? The smile helps your mind to become uplifted. Your mind becomes wholesome when you smile. And you bring that smile back to your object of meditation. Wishing another person happiness. Now you stay with your object of meditation as long as you can. And then your mind is going to get distracted again. Meditation is about how mind's attention moves from one thing to another. How does it move? We don't care about the content of thoughts. Not with true meditation. The content of thought makes your mind contract because you get caught in thinking. When you start noticing how your mind was on your object of meditation and all of a sudden you're over here thinking about this or that. How did that happen? It didn't all of a sudden jump there. There's a process that happened. And with that process, when you become familiar with your mind bouncing back and forth between your object of meditation and thoughts, when you become more and more familiar with that, you start noticing little things happen before your mind takes off and begins to think about this or that. And when you start thinking about this or that, what happens is, well, you let your mind get bored with thinking about that. Now it thinks about something else, and now it thinks about something else, and you're lost. You don't even recognize where you are anymore. Then you remember, so you release the thought. How do you release your thoughts? You allow the thoughts to be there, but you don't keep your attention on them anymore. You're not pushing thoughts down. You're not trying to stop thoughts from arising. You allow the space for the thoughts to be, and then you relax the tightness in your head, in your mind, caused by those thoughts. Now you smile, you come back to your object of meditation. Unfortunately, when you're practicing meditation, when you first start practicing, that's the hardest part of the meditation, is to start off. Because you don't feel like you know what you're doing, your mind is running all over the place, jumping here and there. I can't stay on this object of meditation, I can't even remember to smile. My mind just running all over the place. But as you begin to develop your awareness of your mind is jumping all over the place. You can't criticize yourself for thinking this or that. It's just notice that your mind is distracted. Okay, it got distracted. It was distracted for 3 minutes. Okay, so it was distracted for 3 minutes. That's okay. Let go of the distraction. Relax. Smile. Come back. Well, I'm only here for barely one nice thought for somebody else, and now I'm back thinking about this or that again. That's okay. Do it again. Let it be. Relax. Smile. Come back. This is a training period. You're not used to having your mind. Your mind is not used to being disciplined. Your mind is used to running around wherever it's going to run. And it doesn't like the idea of being disciplined, so it's going to have some resistance to it. So it doesn't matter how many times your mind gets distracted. What matters is when you notice that you're distracted, even if you're in mid-thought. Let it go, relax, smile, come back to your object of meditation. It doesn't matter how many times your mind gets distracted when you're sitting in meditation. Everybody has this idea that you're supposed to have a silent mind when you meditate. But at first, it isn't going to happen. Don't expect it to happen. You have to understand that your mind is used to running around, so it's going to keep doing what it habitually does. Run around here and there, think about this, that, think about what happened yesterday, what's going to happen tomorrow. As you begin to practice, and let go of the thought and relax and smile and come back to your meditation object, you're improving your mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is remembering to observe how mind's attention moves from one thing to another. Why it jumps around doesn't matter. We're not interested in why. Why is for the psychologist to figure out. We don't much care about that. We want to know about how the process works from your being here and very calm and peaceful to being distracted. How did it get distracted? There is a process that happens. First, a feeling arises. A feeling is not an emotion. Feeling is a feeling. Feeling is pleasant or painful or neutral, neither pleasant nor painful. When a feeling arises, right after that feeling arises, this tension and tightness arises. Now, in Buddhist terms, this is called craving. Craving always manifests as tension and tightness in your mind and in your body. An interesting thing in this country, when I came back after 12 years of being in Asia, I started talking about relaxing your body. I started realizing that people think your body is from your neck down and your mind is from your neck up. But that's not the truth. The truth is your mind and your body are interconnected, and your body starts at the top of your head and goes down to the bottom of your feet. So when I say relax your body, what I'm talking about first is relaxing this tension and tightness in your head. When you start relaxing here, the relaxation goes all the way down your spine, through your entire body, eventually. At first, because you're not used to doing it, your collectedness is not as strong as it could be. It doesn't feel like that's what's happening. But on a very subtle level, this is what's happening. So, when that tightness arises, that's what we call clinging, or craving. The craving is the I like it, I don't like it mind. If it's a pleasant feeling, I like it. I want it to last a long time. If it's a painful feeling, I don't like it. I want it to stop. If it's a neutral feeling, it gets tricky, because when a neutral feeling arises, it's real easy not to pay attention to it. But that doesn't matter for right now. Right after craving arises, clinging arises. Now, what is clinging? Clinging are all of your thoughts, all of your opinions, all of your concepts, all of your ideas, and story about why you don't like that feeling, or why you do like that feeling. This is all of your thinking mind. And it's also the start, or the growing part, I should say, of the identification with thoughts and feelings as being mine personally. Now, everybody here knows what it's like to be depressed. That's a reasonable thing to say, yeah. Now, did you plan on being depressed when it came up? Did you say, I haven't been depressed for a real long time, and I think it's time for me to get depressed now? No, nobody's going to be that dumb. It's painful to be depressed. But it arose because conditions were right for it to arise. A painful feeling arises, tension and tightness in your head, in your mind arises, and then all of your thoughts and concepts and ideas about what this feeling is, and how you don't like it, and how you want it to change, and how you want it to be different than it is, causes your mind to think. And then you have this habitual tendency that when this habitual tendency arises, you're really caught up. And now you have an emotional hold on this feeling that you don't like and you don't want to be there. Now, we're made up of 5 different things. This psychophysical process is made up of 5 things. You have a physical body. You have feeling. Pleasant, painful, neither painful nor pleasant. You have perception. Perception is the part of the mind that names things. Okay? Perception says, you see this, you say sleep. Okay? That part of your mind that named it is perception, and it also has memory involved with it. Then you have thoughts, and then you have consciousness. Now, where your habitual tendency comes in is you have your body, a feeling arises, and it's a painful feeling. And then you start thinking about the feeling, and you try to control the feeling with your thoughts. But guess what? The more you try to control feeling with your thoughts, the bigger and more intense the feeling becomes. Now you're at war with yourself, trying to control a feeling with your thoughts, and it doesn't work. So what are we supposed to do? Now you have these little blue books. I talk about what you do when a physical sensation arises, because it's easy to talk about that. When a physical sensation arises and your attention gets pulled to it, let's say you have pain in your knee when you're sitting very still, or pain in your back, you have an itch, whatever arises, the first thing your mind does is it starts thinking about that feeling. I wish it would stop. Why does it have to bother me? Why doesn't it just go away and leave me alone? I hate this feeling when it comes up. Every thought about a feeling causes the feeling to get bigger and more intense. So if it's a painful feeling, what happens? Now you have a tight mental fist around that feeling, and you're really trying to control the feeling with your thoughts, and it doesn't work. And the feeling gets more intense and more intense till you can't stand it. You go from just having a feeling to having an emergency. I've got to change. I can't put up with this anymore. So if you have a feeling arise, and it doesn't matter whether it's a physical feeling or a mental feeling, it's still feeling, right? It's either a pleasant feeling or a painful feeling or a neutral feeling. If you try to control your feeling with your thoughts, the feeling gets more intense until I got to go to the doctor, I got to get some medicine, I don't want to be depressed anymore. And you go to the doctor and you get some medicine that has these side effects that dull your mind out unbelievably. And it kind of masks the feeling of depression. But it doesn't really solve any problems. So what to do when you're sitting in meditation and a feeling arises? It doesn't matter if it's mental or physical. You start noticing that you're thinking about a feeling. The first thing you need to do is let go of the thoughts about the feeling. Remember I told you, The way you do that is by allowing the thoughts to be there but not keeping your attention on them. Now you relax the tension and tightness caused by those thoughts. Now you see the feeling, and you see that there's a tight mental hold wrapped around that feeling. That's aversion, and that's your belief that this feeling is yours personally. The truth is, when a feeling arises, it's there. That's the truth. Anytime you try to fight with the truth, anytime you try to control the truth, anytime you try to change the truth, you're fighting with reality. And that's the cause of suffering. You're identifying with that feeling, and you're trying to make it be the way you want it to be. And that makes that mental hold tighter and tighter around the feeling. What the meditation teaches you is to recognize that you're doing that. You're trying to control your feelings, your thoughts, and you need to allow the space for a feeling to be there. It's painful. Okay. So, it's a painful feeling. Welcome to the real world. We all got painful feelings sometimes. Allow the space for that feeling to be. Now you relax that tension and tightness caused by that want to control and identifying with that feeling. And your mind is clear. Your mind is bright. And you have no craving in your mind at that time. And you smile and you come back to your object of meditation. Your object of meditation can be smiling. Your object of meditation can be wishing a friend happiness. Your object of meditation can be doing what you're doing in the present moment. You're working, you're studying, you're doing this, you're doing that. You come back with a smile in your mind and a smile in your heart, and stay with what you're doing in the present moment. This is how you practice meditation all of the time. You see, there's been some very strange things that have happened over the years. And people have begun to call sitting in meditation, they've been calling meditation sitting. Okay? Meaning that's the only time you can do the meditation. And that's not right. Meditation is life. What are you doing with what arises when somebody comes up and they start giving you their anger for whatever reason? What do? Most of the time, you take their anger, make it your anger, and then throw it back at them. Now you're at war. Now you're fighting. And you say things at the same time somebody else says something. You don't hear what they're saying because you're talking. But you know what you said. And you fight for a little while, and then that person goes away. What happens in your mind? Your mind clear and bright, ready for whatever else happens? No. You start thinking about what they said, and what you said, and what you should have said. And you start thinking, I'm right, and they're wrong. So you have all this pride stuff coming up too. And then what happens in your mind? You play it over again just like it was on a tape deck. then you still think about that turkey for what they said and what they did, and you get in a car and you start driving. Are you really driving, or are you thinking about something else and not paying attention? How do you think accidents happen? Oh, I was thinking about something else, backed into this pole, caused myself $1,500 worth of damage to the car. Why? Because you weren't paying attention to what you were doing while you were doing it. You were thinking about something that happened in the past. Everything that happens in the past is gone. It's not here until you make it come up again by your attachment to it. Then you go home and you tell everybody at home, leave me alone, I've had a bad day. Don't want to talk to anybody, leave me alone. And then you go to bed at night and you wind up tossing and turning. You don't get really good sound sleep. And you wake up the next morning and you're groggy. And you still have that attachment to what happened yesterday now. And you're still angry about that, so the thoughts come up again, just like they were on the tape deck. And you start telling other people how this person attacked you and you didn't really like it and it wasn't fair. And you keep building, believing that all of these thoughts and all of these feelings are yours personally. And you start causing yourself more and more upset, more and more pain, more and more dissatisfaction. I had a student that when she first came to me and started talking about her life, she would get mad at her husband. And she would stay mad at him for 2 weeks before she finally started letting it go. She didn't let go of the attachment. What she did was just kind of forgot about it. And then when another instance came up that was similar, she had the old anger and throws it on the new anger and really gets angry. You see how we cause ourselves pain? We are the cause of our own suffering because we take everything that happens to us personally. This is me, this is mine. When in fact, you didn't ask that anger to come up. You took it, made it yours, and then started throwing it around. So, what I'm trying to show you is that there is another way to handle a situation. Somebody can come up to you, they can give you their anger. And you know what it's like to be angry. And you know how much it hurts. Blood pressure goes up, you get red in the face, you have all these emotional things, you feel like you're about ready to bust. Your whole body is tension and tight. And you see that in this other person. And you go, boy, they're really suffering. So instead of taking their anger and making it yours, you start recognizing that they're suffering. They're in pain. Now, out of compassion, you allow them their space to be angry. But you wish them happy. It takes two to fight. There's only one fighting. The fight disappears pretty quick. Now one of two things will happen. That person will just see they're not getting any reaction out of you and walk away mumbling, or they'll calm down, and then you can find out what the real problem is, because it's not what they're talking about. The definition of compassion is allowing another person to have their own pain and love them anyway. Sounds great. Try it in real life. I used to go visit a lot of people in the hospital. When I was in Malaysia in particular, anybody that got sick, I was staying at the largest monastery in Malaysia at the time. Anybody that got sick, their family would pick me up, take me to the hospital, go visit them. They liked me to go visit people in the hospital because I always made them feel better. Even though they were sick, they'd be dying of cancer or with some other horrific disease. AIDS was really rampant at that time. Also, there was an awful lot of drug addiction that was happening, and they'd get thrown into the hospital. They want me to come visit these people that were suffering. Why? Because before I walked into the room, I made up my mind that they can suffer as much as they wanted to suffer, and it was okay for them to have that pain. It had to be okay because that's what they were experiencing. But I could love them. I could send them happy thoughts. Now what these people started saying was, every time you walk into my room, it's like fresh air coming into the room. Other people come into the room and they try to take the pain away. I can't take your pain away. Your pain is your pain. All I can do is allow the space for you to have your pain and love you. There is something that is real helpful, and that is a sense of humor. So I would try to say things or do something that would make them chuckle a little bit. And when they started laughing, their pain became less and less. So I walk into the room, I'm not trying to change anything. I'm not trying to make them be some particular way. I'm keeping my mind uplifted and happy. And their mind is suffering and unhappy. And as I continued being happy and wishing them happiness, their mind would come up to where my mind was. And there was relief in that. Not a maybe. This stuff is real. You know about endorphins, how they're the painkiller in the body. It comes from the pineal gland. When a feeling arises and it's painful and somebody grabs onto it and tries to control it with their thoughts, it shuts down the blood vessels that go to the pineal gland. And the natural painkiller can't get through. So the pain they experience is really an emergency. Give me drugs. I don't want any of this stuff. But when you go in and you give them love and you make them feel a little happy by smiling or laughing, then all those blood vessels around the pineal gland open up. Painkiller comes into the body. It's better than morphine by 10 times. So you're helping them by uplifting their mind, and they experience less pain and suffering because of it. If you go into a room and you go, oh, I feel so bad for you, your mind goes down to where they are. And you're not helping anybody. I had a doctor one time that he really didn't like shots. And as he was starting to give me a shot, he would go, oh, thanks a lot, Doc. All of a sudden my muscles are like that because I know there's going to be some pain coming. Oh, don't do that. My mother was a nurse for 50 years. She knew how to give shots. And there was no pain involved at all. You barely even felt the needle going in. It was wonderful. Because she wasn't afraid of it. And she gave this confidence that it's okay. And there's a little prickly feeling, okay, nothing. You affect the world around you. And it's your choice how you're going to affect the world. If you go out, go to the shopping mall, don't believe me, try it. Walk around with a sour face. See how many people you see smiling. Then sit down, calm your mind, relax, and start smiling. Everybody you see, smile. What happens? All of a sudden you see people smiling. Meditation is not just about sitting. Meditation is about living. There's 3 different aspects to meditation that the Buddha taught. The first 2 are about what you do in your life, your daily activities. The first one is you need to practice your generosity. The monk's talking about generosity. Cover the pockets. What is generosity? There's generosity in speech. There's generosity with your body actions. There's generosity in your mind. When you go out into your daily life, you see somebody that's hassled a little bit, like a clerk at a store, and you say something to make them smile, you are affecting the world around you in a positive way. So saying kind things is really an important aspect of the meditation. The more kindly you can talk, the more uplifting everybody is around you. How do you feel when somebody gives you a compliment? Don't you think everybody else feels like that too? You help people. Physically help them. Sometimes you practice your generosity by giving somebody some food. Sometimes you help them by carrying something that's heavy with them. I don't know. You can help them in all different physical ways. And it's very much appreciated. You know how you feel when you're carrying something heavy? Somebody comes along and says, here, let me help you with that. Oh, nice. Do that for other people. Hold thoughts that are happy thoughts. And send those happy thoughts to other people. I love to go in grocery stores where there's a little kid that's crying a lot, making a lot of noise, mother is harassed in one way or another, I walk up and start smiling at them, start radiating a happy thought to them. All of a sudden, the little baby's quiet, and they start smiling back. And how do you think the mother feels when the baby's not crying anymore? Oh, they really like that. They start smiling too. How do you affect the world around you? That's part of meditation. It's about living. Now there's another aspect, and I'm finding in this country that people don't like to hear about this stuff. It's called morality. Oh, geez, going to get a sermon. But there are certain universal principles that if you follow them, they will lead to a very calm, peaceful, happy mind. They're not commandments. You don't have to do them. It's your choice whether you do them or not. There's no God in heaven that's going to zap you with a thunderbolt if you break one of the precepts. But you know that you broke it, and it will cause your mind to feel guilty. The first one is, don't kill or harm living beings on purpose. That's cockroaches, ants, mosquitoes, fleas, ticks. We have a lot of those where we live. Don't kill or harm. Why? Because if you kill or harm on purpose, you have aversion in your mind. Aversion in the mind causes fear to arise in your mind. Causes anxiety to arise in your mind. Causes restlessness to arise in your mind. So if you don't want these things, don't kill or harm living beings. The second one is, don't take anything that's not given. Don't steal. How do you feel when somebody takes something from you? Don't do that to anybody else. Makes sense. Don't have any wrong sexual activity. According to the Buddha, wrong sexual activity is not having any sexual activity with someone that's still under the care of their parents. They're too young. Not having any sexual activity with another person's mate. Or if you have a mate, having sexual activity outside of that relationship. Not having any sexual activity with prostitutes, paying for pleasure. That's what they tell me. Okay, that's wrong sexual activity. According to the Buddha, you have to follow the laws of the land. In Malaysia, a man can have 4 wives. Why anybody would want that, I'm not really sure. But they can. So the laws of that land are they can have 4 wives. In this country, you can have 1. And follow the laws of the land. It comes down to having sexual activity where no one will have any bad thoughts about that relationship, painful thoughts, dissatisfaction thoughts, guilty thoughts. And that leaves a lot. It doesn't say you have to be married. That's your choice. But having sexual activity where nobody else suffers, that's up to you. The next precept, don't tell lies. Every time you say something that's not true, your mind says, very quiet, that makes your mind restless, that makes fear arise, that makes anxiety arise, that it causes doubts to arise. There's all kinds of major problems when you say things that are not true. Don't say things that divide one group from another group. Don't try to be a wedge in between different people. Practice saying things that bring people together. The next part of the speech is don't curse. Don't speak dirty thoughts, cussing. I came back to this country 10 years ago. I was absolutely shocked at how much cursing there is on television, on the radio, and people walking around. You can say anything you want, doesn't matter. No. If you're cursing, you have dissatisfaction and dislike in your mind. That causes restlessness to arise. It causes all kinds of mental problems. So you don't want to do that. And don't gossip. What is gossip? Gossip is talking about somebody else and making up stories about them. Sound good, but they're not true. If you follow this right speech and follow it very closely, everyone around you will trust you because they know that you're reliable. But if you know that I'm saying something to make you feel good, but I don't really believe it, then you don't trust me as much. Even little white lies are lies. In the Asian community, saying something that's not true is not considered lying. And it is. It causes all kinds of problems for people. The last precept is not taking any drugs or alcohol. A little bit of wine's okay. No, it's not. Why? Dulls your mind. Makes you want to break the other precepts. Stops you from being truly aware of what you're doing in the present moment. Now, if you follow these 5 precepts, the speech precept, all 4 of the different kinds of speech is just considered one precept. If you have the idea that taking a little bit of wine every now and then, beer every now and then, that is not affecting your mind, you're sadly mistaken, because it does affect your mind very much. It affects your reflexes. It affects the way you see the world around you. And now you know that taking these is breaking one of the precepts. It will cause your mind to feel guilty. Now, if you keep these precepts without breaking them, you get ready to sit in meditation. Sitting in meditation means that's your quiet time for doing the meditation. That's only a part of the meditation. Your mind will very easily become composed. You won't have an overly active mind. Your mind will be calm. That's one of the advantages of keeping the precepts. You break a precept, you look forward to one of the hindrances arising. Now there's 5 hindrances. There's lust or greedy mind, I want it mind. There's hatred, aversion mind, I don't want it mind. There's sleepiness and dullness. You ever been into a lecture that didn't particularly have much interest in, and how hard is it to keep your eyes open and listen? Then sleepiness and dullness. Restlessness and anxiety, and doubt. Doubt is whether I'm doing this properly or not. Not, I don't know whether I should eat this today or eat that. That's not the kind of doubt we're talking about. Now, the reason that these hindrances arise is because at some point in your life, in your past life, you've broken a precept. Now you sit in meditation and your mind is superactive. Why is it superactive? Because there's guilt and remorse. And it takes a lot of work to overcome a hindrance when it arises, because it'll keep pulling your mind away. And this is called a hindrance because it takes your mind away and you're 1,000 miles away thinking about this or that. And you're not in the present moment. You're cutting some vegetables and all of a sudden you're thinking about something that happened 2 weeks ago. Cut a finger. Why did you cut your finger? Because you weren't paying attention. You got distracted. Why did you get distracted? Because you broke a precept. The Buddha's path is about learning how to let go of craving. Letting that tension and tightness go. Every time you relax that tension and tightness, that pure mind arises, no thoughts in it. This is called the third noble truth. What's the third noble truth? The cessation of suffering. Now, this process that I've talked to you about, you have a feeling arise, craving arises, clinging arises, habitual tendency arises. There's more that arise after that. There's a birth of action, and there's sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair that arises. When you let go of that craving, no clinging arises, no habitual tendency arises, no birth of action arises, no sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, or despair arises. You have a pure mind. You have a mind that's clean. There's no craving in it. And you're able to see exactly how things work in the present moment. You've all studied, and all of a sudden you start worrying about what the test is going to be like. Right before the exams you study and your mind gets distracted by worry and I can't get this stuff and I don't understand this stuff and it's just not staying in. That's a restless mind. What do you do with a restless mind? You notice that you're thinking, let go of the thinking, relax, and smile. The more you can smile with what you're doing in the present moment, the more uplifted your mind becomes. The more uplifted your mind becomes, the more joy arises in your mind. Joy is a good thing. It's fun to have joy. You feel happy. When you feel happy, it's real easy to absorb the things that you want to absorb studying for a test, because it's kind of fun. If you go try to study with dread in your mind, you can look forward to a lot of restlessness and distractions. So the more you make what you're learning fun and turn it into a game, the more efficient you become. and the better are the grades that come from them. In Malaysia, they go to college and they take one test a year. It's either you pass or you don't. And the people that are going to college, when I was there, they were Chinese. And they're very ambitious folks. And they really, their parents demand that they get good grades. And that puts pressure on them. And they demand in themselves that they get good grades. So that puts more pressure on them. And then they start worrying. And then they start failing because of not paying attention to what they're doing while they're doing it. They would come 3 or 4 weeks before a major test at the end of the year and practice 1 week of meditation. And I showed them how their mind worked and how you have to let go of these distracting thoughts and relax and smile and come back to your object of whatever you're doing. Studying, if that's what it is. As far as I know, there was nobody that failed those tests when they came and practiced with me. Some of them didn't pay attention to that and they failed. That means they had to take a whole year over again. Next year, they came and practiced with me. Then they get out of college and they have to go get a job. Hard to find a job in Malaysia, really hard. A lot of competition, a lot of people that are very talented. When they get out of college, they're ready to work. They ask me, what is the best way for me to get a job? And what did I tell them? Smile. You walk in, you smile, you radiate loving kindness to the person that you're talking to. You give them a feeling of confidence in you, and you'll get the job. And they were amazed at how easy it was to get a good job, to get a good paying job straight out of college. Because they were always told that you got to start at the start and then work your way up. But they were going for a lot better jobs. And they were getting them. Why were they successful? One, they kept their precepts without breaking them. They practiced smiling all the time. I just talked to somebody a little while ago, an administrator type. Right before I left, I said, I want you to try an experiment. I want you to put a mirror on the desk, right by your phone. And I want you to look in that mirror and see whether you're smiling or not. And if you're not, then start again. Smile. And every time you're on the phone, I want you to look at your face while you're on the phone. And when you recognize you're not smiling, smile. It'll be interesting to see what happens with it. I know what's going to happen. It'll be interesting for her. See, there's a lot of people that have practiced meditation. And then they come and they start practicing with me because they hear I teach meditation in a little bit different way than anybody else. And they've already developed habits of I'm meditating this way and that's the way I'm going to meditate. This one friend he was really stuck in mindfulness of breathing with one-pointed concentration. He complained to me bitterly about, I have to have my breath to focus on because that's where I get peaceful and calm. But there's something wrong with my meditation. I don't feel peaceful and calm all the time. So I told him what to do, but he wouldn't do it. So finally I got fed up. He said, you've got to practice loving kindness meditation. He came up with every excuse in the world why the meditation wouldn't work. Oh, I have to have tension in my mouth because I got to smile. Oh, my mind just doesn't like this, and it's too active, and this isn't right. So finally he said, okay, enough of this nonsense. I don't want you to sit in meditation at all for 1 week. What you got to do is you have to smile all of your waking moments. You got to smile. Now the smile is smile with your mind, smile with your eyes, smile with your mouth, a little smile. It doesn't have to be a big toothy smile. Smile in your heart. And I said, anytime you find it really difficult to smile, I want you to smile anyway. And then I want you to laugh at how hard it is to smile. You've got to do this for 1 week. So I didn't hear from him for a week. And I thought, he went by the by. And he comes back after 1 week and he said, I took your advice and I took it very seriously. And I smiled all week. And even when I didn't feel like smiling, I smiled and I saw advantage to that. It helped. He said, here's some other things that happened this whole week. I used to walk around in this mental haze, never looking around, not paying attention to where I was, just thinking about this and thinking that. My head was always down, my shoulders were slumped. And I started smiling, and I started noticing that my posture started changing, and I started having my head up, and I started looking around, and you know something, it's really strange. People started smiling back at me. They never smile at me, ever. And he said, after a couple of days, they actually started walking up and talking to me. This is amazing stuff. And I said, did you notice any improvement in your mindfulness? He said, I can't believe how sharp my mind was. By smiling, my mind became alert. And it got real easy to see when I wasn't smiling, so I'd smile some more, even though I didn't feel like it. And he said, and people around me are noticing a change in my personality. And the doctor is taking me off some of the drugs that he's been giving me. He said, drugs? I didn't know you were on drugs. He says, oh yeah, I'm in a mental institute. He's writing me on the email. I don't know him from anybody. Here's a guy that's been institutionalized. And now the doctors are starting to give him less drugs because he's more aware of what he's doing in the present moment, and he's trying to smile more. He really saw advantage to that. Now, after 1 week of his practicing smiling, he's on our Yahoo group, and people are writing questions about the meditation. And he's starting to answer them. And he's answering exactly right. He understood what the meditation really was, just because he took 1 week of smiling seriously. Start understanding how your mind works when you smile. It's not a maybe. This stuff works. Now the doctor had told him that he was going to be in the mental institute for the rest of his life. After 6 or 7 months, he was continually progressing, taking less and less drugs. They gave him all kinds of psychological tests, and they found out, well, he's not so bad after all. And now he's living by himself, taking care of things that need to be taken care of, living in the real world. Now, this is from doctors that said, no, boy, you're stuck here. You've got to be here for the rest of your life. And because he took the meditation seriously and he smiled and continued smiling even when things were difficult, and he started laughing at things that are difficult, it changed him. It gave him a different kind of perspective. It taught him how his mind was really working. And it was completely different than what he thought it was. So the more you practice smiling, the more you practice having fun, the more efficient you become with whatever you're doing in the present moment. You ever have one of those days where you had 20 things to do and you only had 10 minutes to do it? And you're running around here, oh, I forgot I got to do this. And you start doing, oh, I forgot I got to do that. And you never finish anything? You know those kind of days. What do you think you should do when that happens? What you need to do is take 5 minutes and sit down and let go of all of the distracting thoughts and the restless feeling. And become calm. When you become calm, you become efficient. And then you do this, done. That, done. This is easy, done. And you get everything done, and you still have time left over because you're not thinking about something else while you're trying to do this. That's one of the advantages of learning about meditation. That's one of the advantages of learning to smile. And another thing that's real interesting is when you laugh at yourself for being caught by an emotional state. When you laugh, it changes your perspective. It changes your perspective from, I'm mad and I don't like this, to, it's only this anger. What's that? I don't need to carry that around with me. It leads to a clear mind, a happy mind, and you start to learn what it's truly like to be content in life. That's what I call successful. A successful life doesn't have to do with financial gain. A successful life has to do with your own happiness and how you can help other people. That's what the meditation is about. Learning how to do that. Being more and more aware of what your mind is doing in the present moment and letting go of the nonsense and what one of my teachers used to call rubbish thoughts. The nonsense stuff that your mind comes up with and makes you emotional. It's supposed to be this way. Well, the truth is it isn't, and it's okay that it isn't. It has to be okay because that's the truth. Anytime you try to fight with the truth, that's the cause of suffering. And the truth is what's happening right here, right now. You think about things in the past, dissatisfaction, your attachments to it, cause of suffering. Let go of thoughts of the past. They're gone. They're not even close to being around unless you pull them up again. You think about what's going to happen in the future. Do you know what's going to happen in the future? Airplanes can fall out of the sky right now and kill all of us. Do you know whether that's going to happen or not? don't know what's going to happen in the future. But you can be happy in the present moment. Now this doesn't mean that you don't plan your day, but it means that you don't over-plan your day. And you don't put pressure on yourself to accomplish the things that need to be accomplished. I lived in Asia for 12 years. I considered it a very successful day when I got to do 2 things that I planned for the day. Because there is always something that was unexpected happening. And I had to take care of this and I had to take care of that. I got 2 things done in the day that I wanted to get done. All right, this is a good one. When you start to develop the habit of having fun with what you're doing while you do it, you're beginning to learn what a successful life is. Why? Because you're completely with what you're doing. You're not thinking about, well, the last time I did this screwed up and that screwed up and that was hard. You take everything like it's a brand new experience, because it is. And what you do with that in the present moment dictates what happens in the future. If you're resisting what happens in the present moment, you can look forward to having hard times in the future arising. If you accept what's happening in the present moment and relax into it and send some love to somebody, you can look forward to having a lot of happiness arise in the future. That's the way it works. Okay, I've been talking for a long time. You want to leave now? I've been talking for a long time. Do you have any questions? Yeah, an hour and a half. I've been talking that long. Blows my mind. You mean what I said was so clear that there's no question?
I was kind of curious about the concept of clinging. If you could talk more about that.
Clinging. That's where you have all of your opinions, your stories, and your thoughts about things. If I bring a rose up to you, and you're in a happy mood, and I give you this rose, and you look at that rose and you say, you know, that rose really smells good. And look at the shape of that. That's just wonderful. And the color is absolutely fantastic. Now I take the rose away. I wait until you're in a grumpy mood. And I give you that rose.
Same rose.
Same rose. And you look at that and you go, it's got thorns in it. I don't want this thing. What's different? Rose is the same thing. Same exact rose. What's different? The way you color things because of past attachments. Clinging. It forms your ideas and stories about the way you think things should be, instead of accepting the way things are. And we all have a lot of concepts. As a matter of fact, we can't think anything that isn't a concept. Now, what's a concept? What am I sitting on? A chair. A chair's a concept. Where is a chair? Is it the legs? Is it the back? Is it the seat? Is it the cushion? Where is a chair? A chair is a concept made up of a lot of tiny little things. I tell you, you're sitting in meditation and a pain arises. Pain is a concept. Pain is made up of a lot of different little parts put together to make up this concept. Anytime you're thinking in concepts, that's the cause of suffering. But when you relax, then the concepts don't arise. There's no thoughts. There's only seeing things the way it truly is. There's a sensation that arose in my knee and it's there. There's a painful feeling. And that's a concept. But in reality, what you're noticing is this. And you relax into that and you allow it to be, then it's just a sensation. I know you like this story. In Burma, a friend was a dentist, and he wanted to clean my teeth for me, and I said, fine. And he got a little bit heavy-handed, and he broke a tooth. Got a silver tooth there. And he said, well, because I broke this tooth, we're going to have to do something with it. I think we're going to have to do a root canal. In Burma, they don't clean their utensils. Okay. Before I allowed him to work on me, I said he had to boil all of his stuff for, I think it was 20 minutes or something like that, before I'd let him even put anything in my mouth. Now he wants to take a needle and put it in me. No, thank you. I don't need any aids now. I said, okay, do the root canal. I don't want any painkiller. You know what it feels like? Have a root canal? They got to go all the way up, about that far. That's what it feels like. While he was drilling on me, holding on to the handles, and I had a really white knuckle experience, and I'm going, oh, we got to let go of that and relax. And then I noticed there's all kinds of tension in my back, in my buttocks, in my stomach, and I started relaxing everything. And then I had time, while he was drilling, to send loving and kind thoughts to the person that was causing me the pain. And then he'd hit another spot, and this whole thing would happen again. Now, he drilled on me for 15 or 20 minutes. It felt like hours. But when he was done, my mind was bright. My mind was alert. And I was very much in the present moment. Not because I was glad that he stopped, I was, but it wasn't because of that. It was because of my continually letting the sensation be there without resisting it, without tightening around it, without trying to make it different than it was. I didn't take this sensation and make it a pain. If I would have done that, I couldn't have let it go. So the whole thing comes down to, what is your perspective? Is this pain mine? Or is this just a sensation? When you learn how to relax into things, you become very clear, and you develop what the Buddha called wisdom's eye. Wisdom's eye doesn't have any concepts in it, doesn't have any opinions, doesn't have any thoughts. Wisdom's eye is absolutely free from all attachment. Every time you relax that tension and tightness in your head and in your body, you are free from all attachment for that moment. As you continually do this during the day, and you keep relaxing and noticing how I'm starting to get a headache. Well, take a look at the muscles in the back of your neck. How tight are they? Start relaxing those muscles. Send a little bit of loving kindness to yourself and relax that tension and tightness in your head. It goes away. I promise. And I gotta say that that's not 100% of the time. The reason I say that is there can be some physical problems that are causing that pain. If there's a lot of toxins that are in your body, you can have this migraine come up, and it's not from tension and stress, it's from the toxins. And they need to be cleaned out before you get rid of the toxin or the migraine. But the more you wind up accepting the present moment without resisting it, without fighting it, without trying to change it, without trying to make it be any different than it is, and you relax into the present moment, you are developing the wisdom's eye. Why do we call it that? Because wisdom's eye is the mind that's alert in the present moment without any distractions. And we go out for a walk, and I say, look at those flowers over there. And you look at them for a minute, and all of a sudden you start thinking, you know, those flowers are really neat, but I saw some down the block that were better. And then you start thinking about that, and you're not in the present moment looking at this. And then, oh, I remember last year the flowers, I went out to the desert and they were fantastic. I haven't been out to the desert for a long time. I think I ought to go do that. And all of a sudden you're 1,000 miles away. When what you want to be doing is looking and experiencing what's happening right here, right now. Clinging is the thing that pulls your mind away from what's happening in the present moment. Not all thought is bad. Okay? Thoughts about the past and thoughts about the future, those are the ones where the attachment is. But when you're studying something, you have to think about what you're doing. That's your observation thoughts. And they don't have any craving in them because you're just studying or learning or observing what's happening in the present moment. Okay?
So do you have a management program for depression that are that you can use routinely to help a person learn to use?
This piece of paper right here.
And I have one more of
that
those.
I gave everybody. This is something that I've developed over the years that actually somebody else turned me on to. And this is called the 6 R's. And I call them the 6 R's just as a reminder of what you do when your mind becomes distracted.
It's only 6 R's in English, huh?
You recognize that your mind is distracted. You release the distraction. How do you release it? Don't keep your attention on it anymore. You relax the tension caused by that distraction. You smile. Because when your mind gets distracted, all of a sudden you start getting serious and you don't need to. And that's an unwholesome state. You return to your object of meditation or what you're doing in the present moment. And you repeat that every time that there's a distraction. Some distractions go away very easily, very quickly. Others don't. If your mind gets distracted by that same thing again, do the same thing again. Recognize, release, relax, smile, return, repeat. When you do this, you are following the entire Eightfold Path. When you smile, when you really smile, you are following the entire Eightfold Path. You're learning that the Buddha was talking about how to have an uplifted mind. I have no idea why I should just...
I thought it was on the floor again.
It's never a dull moment.
Oh, we like to put things in here for Dave to edit out before we...
The Buddha tried to teach us the universal law about the magic of being happy all the time. All that he was continually doing was showing us different ways to have this uplifted mind. He gave 84,000 discourses. Every one of them is about having an uplifted mind. When you have an uplifted mind, you become more and more awake and alert to what's happening in the present moment. The Buddha, that's not his name, is a title, meaning the awakened one. Everybody talks about, I got to get enlightened. I told you what craving was, I enlightened you about craving. But the only way you can become awake, truly awake, is by practicing this yourself and seeing whether it works or not. I cannot make you awake. I can show you the path. As Morpheus says, I can take you to the door, but you got to walk through it. I can show you the path, but you got to walk it. And I'm a guide. I'm not a teacher. You are your own teacher. You know what's good and right. You know when you're happy and when you're not. You know when you're doing things that are uplifting and helping other people and you're not. And an interesting thing is that we all think that we're supposed to be perfect in everything that we do. And the truth is we're not. But what happens when you take a day and you do 25 things that are so great that you make everybody happy and you make one mistake? What do you think about it? So there's a remedy for this, folks. Forgive yourself for making the mistake. Make a very strong desire not to make that same mistake over again and start over.
So it's about choice of perspective.
It is, definitely. But we're so used to coming down on ourselves and expecting ourselves to be perfect all the time that if we, in our mind, screw up, it might not be a real screw up, but in our mind we screw up. How much unwholesome thought do you spend How much time do you spend criticizing yourself because of one mistake instead of thinking about the 25 things that weren't? The Buddha is here to show, or was here to show us how to let go of this super critical mind about ourselves and about other people. How to have an uplifted mind, a happy mind. I'll tell you a real secret. You ready? Life is supposed to be fun. How much time do you spend being serious with it? How much time do you spend not liking the present moment because it doesn't meet your expectations? How much pain do you cause yourself? There's nothing out there that causes your pain. You cause the pain to yourself. Well, stop doing that. Be nice to yourself. Be happy. Have fun with what you're doing in the present moment. You want to have a successful life? That's it. It really works. But don't believe a word that I've said. Try it. That's the only way you'll know whether it works or not. You can walk away and say, well, that was an entertaining talk, but it was a bunch of bunk. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be mad all the time. You can do that. It's up to you. I don't care. I can be happy. It's your choice. So anybody have any other questions?
I was wondering if you could talk a little more about, you were saying that there's a state of mind that's like sleepy.
Yeah. Sleepiness and dullness. It's called sloth and torpor. Why does sloth and torpor arise? Because you're not taking a strong interest in what's happening in the present moment. I'll tell you how it works. You're listening, but it's not really very interesting. And you start ho-humming your mind around, just kind of lightly thinking this and that. And then you start getting in a dreamy state. And then you start slouching. And then before long, you start nodding. Sound familiar? It happens because you're not taking an interest in what's happening in the present moment. You need to pick up your energy in one way or another. One of the ways the Buddha said that you pick up your energy is you reach up to your earlobe and pinch it really hard. That'll wake you up. Ask your acupuncturist about that sometime. There were times I wish I had some pliers that I could really do it.
You said we could walk backwards, walk forward and backwards.
Well, it depends on what you're doing. Sometimes the sleepiness comes because you've been sitting too long and you need to walk and get some energy up. Now, when people would come and they started practicing with me, I had some really good meditators, and they could sit for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours without a break. And then they would go off and they'd walk very slowly, and they'd come back, and the next sitting they were asleep. So I told them, I don't want you to walk slowly. What I want you to do is walk up and down the stairs and get your heart beating. Get your circulation going. And then your mind can get alert. You need to pick up your energy when you have sloth and torpor. And there's different ways. When people are doing the meditation, I tell them to walk backwards. And when you walk backwards, you have to pay attention to what you're doing. And that picks up your mental energy, and that helps you when you go back and you sit. But quite often, especially now, people get into their computers so much, and they start dulling out, and then they start ho-humming around, and that's the time you need to get up and get your circulation going. Walk really fast. Get your heart beating. Doesn't take very long, 10 minutes or so. But you need to have a break so you can pick up your energy again so that when you sit down, you're alert. The 6 R's you can use anytime, any place. And the more you use the 6 R's, the more alert your mind becomes. And this is important because, as I said, mindfulness improves as you become more alert to what your mind is doing in the present moment. You let go of the distractions, and that's one of the distractions, the sleepiness. You have to know how to handle it. Pick up your energy, then you can go back and you can be very alert for a period of time, but you might need to stop again. Do it at least once every 2 hours. And you'll stay efficient with what you're doing in the present moment. It really works. You try to study all night, bad idea. You need to sleep. Get up in the morning, you're alert, study.
And retain.
That's one of the things I told the students in Malaysia. Oh, I got to study all night. If you haven't learned it by now, this last night of study ain't going to help. Go get some sleep. Be alert when you take the test, and you're going to do better on the test, and they proved that. You need to be rested. Oh, I can just drink some more coffee, that'll do it. That'll do it for making a restless mind, restless body, not an efficient action, not an efficient mind. Coffee, I remember when I was in college, I used to do all-nighters and drank coffee like it was going out of style. Did terrible on tests. Tired and wired at the same time. Done a lot better if I'd have gone to bed and taken some sleep. But you can do the 6 R's, and I want to encourage you to try to remember to do that. If you cut this out and fold it, you can carry it with you to remind yourself, that's what it is. I forgot that. Oh, you said I could stay till 8 o'clock. But you got to ask questions if you want me to stay longer. Okay. Always after I give a talk, I share merit. So this is what I'm going to do now. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu.